Recording. And today we're going to be talking about optioning your first feature. We're still waiting for Theo to get here. So I guess we can have Dana introduce herself. But first I wanted to, welcome you all. It's a Q&A, so if you have questions, the best way to get the question is to use a raised hand emoji. Second best way is just to put it in the chat box, and I will be able to either ask the question or you can unmute and ask yourselves. So I guess we can let Dana introduce herself first while we're waiting for Theo, and we can get started.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Andy. Hi, everyone. My name is Dana Ann Smith. I am a WGA optioned screenwriter. I've written 10 features, 2 TV series, and I have 2 scripts currently in pre-production. One, student loans. We were supposed to start filming September, so we should have been, in the middle of filming right now, and we all know what happened. So the strikes put everything on hold, but really happy with the good news, that we're all hearing, and we should be able to pick that up relatively soon. And then my other script was an adaptation of a novel by a Canadian author, Ingrid Margaret Foster, and that is called Elke's Magic. And that has 2 stars from the CBC longtime 17-year running show, Heartland, attached to it, Amber Marshall and Kerry James. So they'll star in that, and they are also producers on it. And we have just received word that Michelle Morgan, also from Heartland, is going to direct. So really excited about those 2 projects I have, and yeah, really happy to be here.
So can you tell us a little bit about how you got your first option and how that kind of worked?
Sure. So, okay, 2017. I was a new mom. I was pretty young, and I wrote student loans, a very passionate, inspired project of mine about having massive student loans. So it was one of those scripts that came really easily to me. I was like, oh, this is so sad and so desperate and so scary that I felt it immediately I kind of turned it into humor. I was like, this is so funny how bad this is. So I wrote this script that's very, I've heard a lot that like my writing is similar to Judd Apatow. It's very, it's just like big comedy, but very relatable, the whole human experience. So I wrote that script and I immediately felt like I had something. So, but also a new writer, I probably was a little, too aggressive, I'd say. And I'm sure we'll get to all of that today. I was sending my script, like a long email and a full script to, producers and pretty much anybody I could find. But I did start getting calls from talent and their representation saying, I was just like standing in my kitchen and people would be like, are there dates? When are you filming? Is there a director attached? Is it financed, right? That's like the biggest question. And I knew I had something, and then 3 producers optioned it from me, and a director, Tom Brady, a great director, attached to direct. That was under option for a year, and then there was a lot of just it didn't go too well. So the rights reverted back to me. I wrote some more scripts, and then that's the one that's in pre-production now. So interesting, you have an option, then you have nothing, and then maybe it gets picked up again.
And then Joseph, do you want to ask your question?
Oh, okay.
Should I go off mute, Andy?
Yeah, you can unmute and ask yourself.
How are you, Dana? Nice to meet you.
Hi, you too. Thanks.
So the question I had was, I'm a writer. I haven't been optioned. I put my film scripts online, looking to get them optioned. I've rewritten a couple scripts. How long did it take you from your idea to writing it to optioning it? Did you hit obstacles along the way? What did you do to overcome those obstacles?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. As Andy and I were kind of just briefly chatting quickly before this all started, this definitely is not an industry for, the faint of heart, I like to say. You're gonna get rejected. I mean, I can't even tell you how many emails I've sent out, like probably close to 1,000, and then you get a couple, it really just takes one. You get somebody that's like, wow, I love this, I want to, be a part of developing this with you. So yeah, definitely obstacles, but you also learn, I think, what works and what doesn't. And Theo and I, the other mentor on this, were chatting yesterday and just saying how, you learn that people don't want to read, a 10 paragraph email. And also you're not really supposed to send your full script, to agents and managers. They're not supposed to really accept unsolicited material unless they say that they do. So you kind of learn, okay, you've got to get a great log line, right? Your log line is everything. It's how you pitch your script. It's the elevator pitch. So yeah, there's definitely obstacles. And I think that just really believing in what you have and trying to, develop it as best you can, and then just sticking with it. And, if you believe in it, chances are somebody else will eventually too. So.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Brett, you have a question you want to ask?
Yeah, hi, good morning.
Hi.
On a question on your first option, did you already have reps by then to help you get that option?
Oh, no. No, I did not. And man, it is, I remember like when I really was totally new to this thinking, oh, well, this should be easy, right? Get somebody that wants to sell, these scripts I've written. No, it's very difficult. And I, you approach these people and really they want to know, oh, what do you have produced, right? What have you done? And a lot of, when you're a new writer, it's like nothing, I've written these scripts, but so no. And you just have to, I like to call it like rage emailing. No, but you have to, really, I kind of set a goal every day. Like, you know what, I'm going to reach out to 5 people today, 10 people today. And eventually you kind of, find the right people that want to work with you. And yeah, so no, I did not.
Okay, and then Steve, you had a question that you wanted to ask?
Hey, congratulations on all your success.
Oh, thank you.
So I just read, this writing's my second career, and so I'm doing a lot of catch up, but I just read Blake Snyder's Save the Cat. I'm a big Robert McKee guy, but it was just nice to read something that's a little bit less pedagogical and a little bit more practical. But I was surprised that he said in that book, at least, that he thought contests were a waste of time. Of course, that book was written a long time ago. And so I'm just curious to know, did you enter contests? What are your thoughts about contests being a waste of time or not?
So I did enter some contests. I did it a little bit in the beginning. I think they're great. Look, this industry is all about networking, like anything, honestly, right? A lot of it is who you know, the relationships you develop along the way. I think contests are a wonderful way to get your scripts read and, to get noticed, and also just to, network and meet people in your industry. So I think, yeah.
Did the ones that you sell place in any contests?
No, and I actually didn't enter those. So the ones that are in pre-production now, honestly, and I don't know, some of it's luck, right? The journeys with them were a little easier. And I don't know if it's just, they're, what they're about. Student loans kind of hits like a pressure point with everyone. I think the title kind of smacks you in the face, right? Very relatable. And then Elke's Magic, we were just really lucky that the talent that we sent it to was so receptive to it and almost immediately jumped on. So, yeah.
Well, Theo,
but no, I think contests are great.
Well, Theo has arrived. So welcome, Theo.
Yeah, thank you. I had I'm not sure what it was. I had a loading screen, like it was waiting for the host, but I'm not sure what was happening on my end. So I apologize for that.
No problem. Did you want to introduce yourself? We just were, talking about some of Dana's successes and.
Yeah, sure. My name's Theo Davies. I am originally from England. I moved out to California in 2009. I've been working in the industry for about getting on for 20 years now. I started out in a lot of camera departments and doing a lot of work as camera assisting work and a bit of assistant directing work on some BBC dramas and some movies that were being shot in London at Pinewood. Then I moved out here and I made my first feature film in 2013, which was distributed. We sold it to about 15 countries, still available on all the streaming platforms. That's called 5 Our Friends. It's a sports drama starring Tom Sizemore as the lead, who sadly left us early this year. And then a few years later, I made Wishman, which was a film I wrote, directed, and produced, which was a biographical drama about the guy who started the Make-A-Wish Foundation. So it's his life story. And we shot that in 2017 in Arizona. We released it in 2019. We had a limited theatrical release in about 15 states. And then we distributed it across all streaming platforms, sold it to about 20 countries around the world, and Netflix acquired it in 2019, in December 2019, where it played for about 18 months. And I'm currently, now that the strikes are back off, we just got about 2 or 3 projects now, which we're waiting to get back to. One that I'm producing, a couple that I've written. The one I'm producing is with Jeffrey Reddick, who's the creator of the Final Destination franchise. It's one of his horror scripts. I'm producing with him, and just now looking to get things moving now that the strikes are over and hopefully the industry's back up and running.
That's great. And so we were kind of talking about, so if you're an emerging writer who has written a great script and either done well at Nickel or so how would you proceed to getting it in front of the right people?
Well, just touching on what Dan was saying there, I do actually run a screenwriting competition called the Southern California Screenwriting Competition. We started in 2016. It's been growing really well each year, and we get 600 or 700 submissions a year. We even had Shia LaBeouf submit his script last year, his latest script. And we try to, our main objective, which I'm not sure is the case with every festival competition, but our main objective is to try and get the best scripts that come through the competition into the hands of the producers that we know in our network and beyond, to try and connect the right story scripts and writers with producers who are actively seeking scripts in those genres. They might have a very particular script about one location movie or minimal location movie. They want to shoot on a budget. So we've been quite successful. We've optioned a couple of scripts. One's going to production next year. Jeffrey Reddick, the Final Destination guy I was talking about, is actually interested in producing one of the horror films that came through our contest. So that's always been our goal, because I know that's the main obstacle that we face as screenwriters, which is how do we get scripts into the hands of producers. So we set up that competition so we could try and be that bridge between screenwriters and producers. Otherwise, it might be very difficult, because we're going to talk about that more, obviously, but it's very difficult to get your script at this level when you are unwrapped and you don't have any of the industry connections that a lot of these other writers have. Very difficult to get your scripts into the hands of producers who might be looking for exactly what you've written. So that we're trying to be that kind of bridge between the two. But I think that, there's obviously many obstacles and many different ways to go from, here's my script, I've finished my script, now what do I do with it? To the point where you have your script optioned or your script is getting produced. Many obstacles, but there's also many ways and different avenues you can go through at this sort of indie level, not going through the studio system, where you can get your scripts into the hands of the right people. But because I joined late, I'm not sure how much of what Dana and I wanted to talk about has been discussed yet. So maybe if we come up to that point, then we can kind of move forward from there. But we have a lot of ideas and that we can kind of discuss with these sort of aspiring screenwriters.
Yeah.
Okay. So people wanted to know what the name of your competition was again, your screenplay.
It's called the Southern California Screenplay Competition. We call it SoCal Screenplay for short, but the Southern California Screenplay Competition.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you two want to get together and talk about what you had planned, that's a good time to start now, I guess.
Great. Yeah. Dana, where did you start and where did you leave off?
You know what? I haven't gone through, what you and I discussed. I just answered some questions, so we can just start
Okay.
wherever. Yeah.
Great. Great. So I guess yes, some of the notes we were going through yesterday about going from that first point. Do you want to start off with what you had there, Dana, with the now
Sure.
my script finished? Where do I go from here?
Yeah. So, you finished your script. Now what, right? I remember when I finished my first script, I was just like, oh, I've got to send this out. I wrote a script, I wrote a movie, I've got to send this out. But Theo and I were talking yesterday just about, number one, proofread. Mistakes, right? Like errors I feel like they just immediately like signal unprofessionalism, and they just leave a bad taste in the reader's mouth. So I was just saying, proofread, edit. And we were talking about getting feedback, getting a fresh set of eyes on a script and how important that is. And we were saying, don't be too precious about your work, right? It's hard, right? When you're a writer and you're passionate and you feel inspired, you might get some feedback that you're not necessarily happy with, but it can be really helpful. So I'll let you know there.
I think the proofreading thing is a really good point, because I think even through our competition, it's amazing how many scripts that come through our competition are not formatted properly. They don't have completed title pages, which is incredibly important. I would say 30 or 40% of the scripts we receive don't even have an email address or a phone number on them. So that is you're shooting yourself in the foot if you have a script that's completed. That is a way for anyone who's reading a script, producer, investor, financier, it could be it could be an executive from a studio, it could be an agent. They're reading your script and they like it. The first thing they want to do, whether you're reps or not, is know that they can connect with you and contact you. So having your email address and or cell phone number, if you're not comfortable putting a cell phone number in your script, at the very least have your email address. So always have that on your title page, and then make sure that it's formatted properly, because there are so many producers out there who will take one look at the script, see it's not formatted properly, and just won't even bother reading it, because they know if it's not formatted properly, then I'm not going to take it seriously, because they're not taking it seriously. So format your scripts to make sure that it is industry standard, that it's going to be acceptable to anyone reading it. It's going to look polished and it's going to look slick. And like Dan was saying, proofread it and make sure that all the grammar, even if you have someone else do it for you, just to make sure, just a second pair of eyes to make sure that it's reading really well.
Yeah.
Can I chime in here for a second and say, look, there are a lot of competitions that say you can't put your name and phone number on the title page. You just need the title. So make sure you know what the parameters of the contest are, because like yours, obviously you're looking for that. Others, it's a disqualification. So, so go ahead, you can continue.
Well, I think just it's a good rule of thumb. I think just generally, if you're sending out to people, I think aside from the competitions, if you're sending to an agent or producer, just that's a good way of just them contacting you. You might even have what you often have there is the production company who owns the rights to that. If it's not you, then they can contact you through them. But at least have some level of communication on there so they can reach out to you or whoever represents you or the script.
Right.
Yeah. But yes, just continue what Dane was saying about the feedback. Very, very important to make sure you have more sets of eyes reading this than just you and your close friends. Make sure you have people who will give you a very honest evaluation of your script, so that it is critical and critique it in the most honest way possible. That's the only way you're going to get from your first draft to your final draft, which is more polished and more just better, tighter script. So don't worry about if there are mistakes. Mistakes are good. It means that you can fix them and you can actually make it a better script. If you got 5 or 10 people reading your script, they're all saying the same thing, you've got to listen to that point that they're making, because that is a very good chance that needs to be fixed. So feedback is incredibly important. The only way you're going to work from draft to draft to get to where you want to be. Writing is rewriting. It's all about editing. It's all about polishing what you already have. What about rejection, Dana? You want to we both had our best.
Sure, I can speak about that.
Yeah, we both had our best of that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, so Theo and I and Andy and I were talking about how, there's going to be a lot of rejection, and yesterday Theo and I were saying how all of the best, musicians and writers and filmmakers, they all talk about rejection, right? I think it's really great to let it motivate you, let it fuel you. And also you can learn stuff from it. You know, what don't people, you know, what is it that they don't like about your script? Or, you know, not that you have to, you know, listen to everybody, but yeah, for me, I just kind of always let it motivate me. If it's not going to be this guy today, it's going to be a guy tomorrow, you know, or a woman tomorrow. Yeah. So I think it's just important to, you know, if you believe in your story, you know, just keep at it. It's definitely a difficult industry, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it's part of the industry. You know, actors have to go through, as every creative goes through rejection. And I think that when you could have 100 people read your script, you have 99 people hating it, and then one person say, you know what, I see your vision, I like this, I want to work with you on this. So it's a really good thing just to keep going, because it's only the writers who didn't give up who made it, because they're the ones who were tenacious enough and persevered enough to keep going, and just never let. You know, you can't give up after your first no. You've got to keep going until someone says yes. And if you like it and you're passionate about it enough, you will fight for it. So make sure you do that with your work. This is your blood, sweat, and tears you poured into this. There was a question that came up.
Yeah, Joseph, did you want to ask your question? I can.
So I've been lucky to have temped for a studio, and at kind of in an administrative role. Got to meet people in production, executives who, not every day, but you know, sometimes I help the executives out, people on production who need a contract or a director's contract, actor's contract. How would you feel about what are your thoughts about if you got to know those executives well enough that you would bring up your writing? Is it advisable? Would you shy away from doing that? Just your thoughts on.
I have a good little story about this. So Jeffrey Reddick, who I mentioned earlier, who is he's the creator of the Final Destination franchise. He was at New Line Cinema for years. The way he got started there was writing a letter to Robert Shea, who was the president of New Line Cinema. For all those great movies, like all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, all those great horrors going back to the 80s. And he wrote to him as a 14-year-old boy saying, here's an 8-page script I've written. Can you read it? And then he got a letter back. So this is all by mail. So back in the 90s, like, we don't accept unsolicited material. And then he wrote back to Robert Shea again saying, well, I've spent a lot of money on New Line movies, going to watch them at the movie theaters. I think you can take 5 minutes to read my 8-page script. So he wrote back to him again saying, thank you for your aggressive introduction. And then he did read it, and he gave him feedback. And from there he kept, with Robert Shea's assistant, he kept a relationship going for the next 10 years. And when he was in his 20s, he got an internship at New Line Cinema. And it was a conversation he had with one of the executives there. He'd written a spec script for an X-Files episode. And it was basically the Final Destination premise, that plot. And he basically said, this is great. This could be a great feature. And so Jeffrey developed a little bit. He pitched it to them, and they were kind of on the fence a little bit about whether they should, you know, kind of go with this idea, because they couldn't get their head around the fact that you couldn't see death. There's no villain you could physically see. And then once they took it to Miramax and they were interested, the New Line, because they knew it was going to get paid, Miramax jumped on it. And then they got it made. So he was just an intern who basically was working his way up through the ranks, but he just, you know, knew executives through working with them, pitched his idea to one of them, and they liked it. And then they, you know, a few years later, and now next year there's a 7th Final Destination film. I think it's 6th or 7th coming out next year, and that franchise is still going like 20 something years later. So very much so, if you're a writer, absolutely pitch to executives, whoever you know. It's all part of networking. Whether you work at the company, it's not unprofessional. You're a screenwriter, go after whatever you want.
Thank you, Theo, for that. What was that person's name again? Does he have a book out or anything about
his... Jeffrey Reddick, the Final Destination. Yeah, he's still, you know, he's still producing, writing. He's doing horror conventions, about 20 or 30 horror conventions all over the country every year. And he's very busy in the world. He's still very well connected in the horror world. Still knows everyone at New Line. He's not at New Line. He's just independent. But yeah, I'm not sure he's got any books out, but there's a lot of stuff online about him. He's very active with video. So
Thank you.
yeah, no
Dan-
problem.
Dan, did you have a question as well?
I do. Hi, Dana and Theo. Thanks so much for doing this. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem.
So I've been lucky enough to be put in touch with a few different producers now and again. One of them was an assistant to a pretty prominent producer who she had produced the Oscars and a few had some big shows on both network and cable and had done a bunch of features. So her assistant I was put in touch with, and she was very nice to me. We had a lovely chat. We spoke for over an hour on the phone, and she was very kind to me and seemed to take a lot of time out of her schedule. And she actually read, I had sent her a few of my scripts, and she read 3 of them, which was, again, really above and beyond, I felt. And after we spoke, I just said to her, hey, would it be okay if I, reach back out to you? I promise not to abuse our relationship in any way, but, if I have something else to send to you, could I do that? Or if there's an update in my career that I'd like to discuss with you? And she said, absolutely, please do that. So, I would say a good 3 months later, I just sent her an email saying, hey, I've got this other script send to you if you have the time, or hope all is well. And there was no response. I waited another 2 or 3 months. I sent her another email, same thing. There was no response. So, and I've had this experience with other people in the industry where they seem to have the best of intentions, or they kind of act as if they want to talk to you, but then they kind of ghost you. So I was just curious what your feeling about that is. Is it the kind of thing where you just kind of accept it and say, okay, well, they probably don't want to talk to me anymore, they're not interested? Or do you think they're just busy? Like, how do you guys handle that kind of a situation? Because I find it very difficult to read the person on the other end. And is there a sort of a standard way of managing that?
Well,
Yeah, Danny, you got
okay. I think it's good, we're talking about persistence, right? So it's definitely good to follow up. I think in terms of etiquette and, like industry, the norms, it takes a while, I think, to realize that it's not like the rest of the world, right? Like if you send an email, you really shouldn't even expect an email back, for, I don't know, it could be a week, 2 weeks, right? Whereas we're used to, emailing people and the next day, oh, they haven't gotten back to me. That's kind of strange, right? So there's definitely, these people are very busy, agents, managers, producers, they get a lot of emails. So there's, I think, Theo, I'm sure you'll agree, there's different time, expectations in this industry. So I think it's good to be persistent, follow up, but I think, you also have to, if you're sending 2, 3 emails and you're not getting a response, me personally, I guess I would take it elsewhere. Maybe it's not for them. Or perhaps their schedule at this time just simply can't, take anything else on. That's my feeling on it, Theo.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that a lot of the time, if you've been in contact with somebody and they've taken, there's a great Christopher Nolan quote where he says, if someone takes the time to read your script, be grateful. And I think that the fact they even read the script was incredible. And I think that you were fostering a good relationship there. I think that most of the time they just get busy. There's always projects working on. They might just drop the ball on getting back to, your email or reconnecting with you. And I don't think it's anything personal. I think it's just something where they kind of move on because they just are too busy, and then it might be something you suddenly get an email back one day. But I think, like Dana was saying, if you send out 50 emails to people wanting to read your script or whoever you want to reach out to, you're very lucky to get 1 or 2 emails back out of 50. It's getting no response is the norm. That's normal. So if you have anyone with any kind of influence in the industry who's taking time to read anything you've written, that's a pretty big deal. That doesn't happen too often. So you're doing the right things if you're networking on that level. I think take a lot of confidence from that, because that doesn't happen all the time. So the fact that you even got that far is really great, and just work from that. Use that as a platform to think, right, I definitely have, you know, my foot in the door here with some people, and people are liking my script, or liking to kind of stay in contact with me based on this my work. That's a really good sign. I think just keep that going, because like we were saying earlier with rejection and communication is really, really bad. I mean, you can make an offer to an actor and actually have money, and it might still take them weeks to get back to you, and then finally they'll get back and say, oh yeah, there's an offer you, and it's almost like a game. It's like, you know, there's an offer you, yeah, you made that offer, that's right. So what is it again? Send it over again. You have to send everything again the second time, and it's kind of persistent, almost like cat and mouse kind of game, until finally, you know, when they realize you do have money, and they think, oh, okay, well then maybe we can put this to the top of the pile rather than all these other things we got to get to. So a lot of it's just they're busy, and but it's not personal, I think, is the way to pretty put that.
I guess the only follow-up I had is like, so I've only sent this woman 2 emails. Is it, I didn't want to piss anyone off, I guess, by then responding, you know, sending like one more email after several months had gone by. Is that completely out of you know,
I think that
do, or
does she have an assistant or anyone else you know through?
She is an assistant.
She's the assistant. Then I'll keep badgering her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
That's
agree.
great to know.
Yeah, she's an assistant. Then assistants are actually the secret way in, because if you can get an assistant to read a script and they like it, they are going to highly recommend it to whoever they're working with. So if the assistant is they've got time, just keep hassling them. Yeah.
We were talking about that yesterday, about how, you know, getting an in with an assistent, or, you know, being able to communicate with them and get your stuff read by them is a really great way to, you know, get through to these producers and talent and everything. Yeah.
100%.
Thank you.
We have more questions. Steve, did you have a question?
Theo, is your niche in terms of your festival tend to be horror?
No, not at all. It just happened to be the winning script last year was a horror script. We have it's an international competition. It's open to all genres. We have 3 categories: feature, TV pilot, and short. So yeah, and we've had all kinds of every genre you can imagine has won something. We even had animated films winning, you know, short competitions, and every genre you can imagine has either placed as a finalist or winner or runner up. So just open to all genres and all formats, basically: screenplay, TV pilot, and short.
Just following up one thing you said about vision. I was just thinking about vision today, thinking that if you have vision now in any given project, you may not actually have vision, but let's say you actually have an incredible vision. The very nature of it is that people will not see it right away.
Right.
And so you got to hold on to it, because it will take some time for people to see the vision.
100%. Yeah, it's especially if you're as a director, you have the same issue, which is I want everyone who's working on this film, cast and crew, to be 50, 100 people, to all buy into my singular vision of what is in my head and what I want to put on the screen, and they're all working with you to try and, you know, achieve that. It's the same with screenwriting. You have to visualize what you want from the story, but it's really just having people. We had people who we sent our script for Wishman to, who are passing on it, and we invited those same people to our first screening in LA once we finished post-production, and then we had people saying, I wish I'd been involved in this. This turned out great. So you have people who make bad decisions and who you know, regret their decisions, like Dana was saying earlier about the Beatles and you know, Star Wars. All these people who got rejected 1,000 times. Think about how much you'd be kicking yourself if you turned Star Wars down. You know, they're only human. They might think it's too much of a risk. I'm not sure. I can't see the vision. But then someone else who does see the vision, which happened to be Alan Ladd Jr. at Universal, thought, I think this is going to be really cool. Let's give it a go. And then Star Wars was born, and the rest is history. So it's really a case of just just finding the person who shares your vision, because it's not that your vision's bad. It means that it's just not in the right hands.
And if it was easily seen, it would not be vision.
Right, exactly. And if it was easily seen, then it wouldn't be tough. And anything tough is worth fighting for.
That's right.
Okay, Enrico, did you have a question?
Yes.
Hey guys.
Hey.
Hi. morning. I'm Enrico. So is my first step in a screenplay, would you think would be representation, getting in contact with that, like an agent or manager, or getting in contact with someone who can get it optioned and produced and let the representation follow? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Or does it matter? You know what I mean? But I'm like, I've been pushing like both avenues, and I'm thinking like, what would be the best focus in the industry norm to like, maybe I should try to get to like a studio or a production person, or maybe I should try to get an agent and a manager that would make me look more professional. You know, what would be the best route in your opinion?
Dan, do you want to talk a little bit about getting the logline elevator pitch, like, and to the right?
Oh yeah, elevator pitch. Yeah, sure. I think, you know, it's kind of a catch-22, or at least that's how I found it to be. You know, you're trying to get an agent or manager, right, to like sell your work, you know, because you haven't done anything yet, or, you know, you haven't produced anything yet. Is that the case, Enrico? Have you produced anything, or have you had something produced?
Correct.
Okay. But you go to these people and they say, well, what have you done? What have you produced? And you're like, oh, well, nothing. I'm hoping you can help me with that, right? No. So they don't want to represent anyone who hasn't done anything yet. And, you know, how do you do anything if you don't have somebody, you know, out there, you know, selling your work, pitching your work, getting your foot in the door? So it's really hard. And I kind of found, you know, I spent like a couple of years just really being a little obsessed with, I've got to get an agent, I've got to get a manager, I've got to get, you know, this person that's gonna rep me and sell my work. And I kind of stopped, you know, just sticking with that mindset. And I said, you know what, I'm going to focus on my craft instead, and actually doing stuff and networking and collaborating, and hopefully doing something that gets, you know, my name recognized, my craft recognized, and representation should come. So I kind of think switch your mindset a little bit. I mean, you could, you know, it's possible that you get a great agent or manager that helps you get more writing jobs, or helps you, you know, sell your script. But I don't know, Theo, I don't know if you agree or not. I would recommend focusing on your craft and doing stuff and getting, you know, recognition that way first.
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to, we kind of touched on a little bit earlier about producers. You know, producers generally don't have time to read scripts, so you are going to be going through an assistant or some other sort of avenue. So what we talked about was just having, often what you'll do is, if you write an email to somebody, let's say you want to write to an assistant for a producer or an agent, don't sort of just send a script to them. That's too overwhelming. You're attaching a file which most people just reject anyway. What you should do is a very, very quick 1 or 2 line email introducing yourself, like a little bio, like, this is who I am, this is what I've written, this is, you know, and then basically just write the project, mention the project you want them to take a look at. And then what I found is quite effective, putting the log line in the body of your email. So your 20 to 30 word elevator pitch, don't make it any more than 30 words. If it's more than 30 words, it's a brief synopsis. That's basically getting into the brief story, brief synopsis. You want a 20 to 30 words is the sweet spot. Make it very short and sweet, really make it strong log lines to resell it, and then invite them to read the script or the treatment. So you'll say, this is the log line, and then say, I'd love to share the treatment or script with you. And then at that point, if they ask for the treatment, that's a really good sign. And it also means it's something they can look at, have a very strong treatment, even if it's a one pager, just to make sure that it has everything you want in there, the log line, the synopsis, the title, the genre, just the basic stuff in there. And then if that entices them enough, then that will mean that they will ask for the script, hopefully. So if you get past the log line to the treatment stage, and you get past the treatment to the script stage, that is about as good as it gets, getting your script that way. But invite them to, rather than overwhelming them by sending that, just ask them for your work, so they can then feel like it's in their control. A treatment takes a few minutes to read, so you're not overwhelming them with their time. And if they like it, they think, well, this has actually got potential. Then the assistant might say, love the treatment, can you please send over the script? If you get to that point, then you've gone through those steps. It's a very patient process, but if you get through those and you get the script to them that way, you are in the best possible position to be in, because that doesn't happen again too often. So doing it baby steps that way, but not overwhelming people. They do not have 2 hours out of their day just to sit down and read a script. So a log line takes 10, seconds to read, and treatment takes a few minutes to read. So you're more likely to get people to want your script if you go that route, because time is precious, and you're not asking too much of their time if you send the log line or treatment.
Right.
Thank you.
Then Kathy has a question about a completed project. Like, are those steps the same? Like, did you want to speak, Kathy, or?
Sure. I read the title about you're selling or optioning your first feature project, and we have a feature doc, and it's completed, and we're in the festival circuit, and we are now. Pardon?
Congratulations! You've done.
Yeah, that's 6 years worth of work, right?
Yeah.
And now, and especially in the market that has changed so much with films and how to get them into the right hands. I mean, should we, it's a single film for us. And we were told initially that probably we wouldn't need an agent should we go out and try to get somebody to rep us. But it's really severely unclear for us. We're having luck at the festivals, yay, but it's not leading to offers for distribution for us. So
I'll just say quickly that if you have a completed project, that is incredibly attractive to a lot of people you go to when you're going to market. So I would definitely, if you haven't planned on, where are you based? Are you based West
Philadelphia?
Coast? Philadelphia, because the American film market coming up in November, which is in Santa Monica, which is only just over a month away. Somewhere like you can sell it at in the marketplace is a good place to go to show a completed work. Sending out screeners to DVD or Blu-ray copies, orders you put it online somewhere, get them a private link. That's a really good way of getting people to look at it. It's amazing how many people will, once they know it's completed, will then want to watch it, because a lot of people go to the marketplace trying to get funding or trying to get their films off the ground. So if you have a completed project, you've already done all that work. So I would say that the kind of people who are just distributing or acquiring documentaries like yours, I would reach out to those companies who have a good track record with documentaries like yours. Reach out to them. They have a completed project. I'd love to send you the screener link if it's online, or send you a hard copy, a physical copy. And then just go from there, because I think that having completed project is a really great place to be in terms of selling it. A sales agent could be shelling out some money for a sales agent just up front. They would be able to get to a lot of people you can't get to because of their connections. That's where sales agents value really comes to the surface. But I think that if you don't have any money, then I definitely wouldn't go the sales agent route yet, because it can get a little costly, even though they can get it to the people you want to get it to. I would definitely try the first way first, because you have a completed project, and there will be documentary distributors out there who will want to take a look at it. Okay,
and I'm sorry, what was the name of the marketplace you were talking about?
The American Film Market, AFM, which is in Santa Monica.
Got it. Okay.
So that's a good place to go. America. Obviously, you've got film markets all over the world. European film market in Berlin and Cannes. So it's with AFM just around the corner. That's a good place to start.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, then Henry, you had another question.
Yeah. Hi. So, me and my producing partner, we're in development of our first feature film, and to spend the summer, we've reached out to a little over 50 film production companies and finance companies, query letters and stuff like that, and we got back around 8 or 9 responses, which I thought, great, it's a good amount. And we sent them, the script, proof of concept, business plan, pitch deck, the whole 9 yards. And we were waiting till after the strike to kind of follow up, because we thought, people are kind of batting down the hatches right now. Like I work film production, so I've been unemployed for a while. And now that the WGA strike is seemingly nearing an end with the contract, would now be the best time to follow up because we are also in the process of trying to hire a casting director, but through that we have to get a SAG waiver and wait for SAG to also, finish their negotiations. Should we wait till that is done, or should we start doing that now that the WGA strike is pretty much rolling to the end date?
Dana, do you want to talk your film? You had that experience about going about kind of what to do, especially with the whether casting director's a good idea, or what to do now that you're in a position where you can maybe reach out to people again and try again. Do you want to?
Yeah, I think, it's obviously been a very uncertain time. So it was good that you kind of like backed off. But yeah, yeah, you're like, but yeah, so I think in the next, coming days and weeks, we'll have more answers in terms of like how to proceed. Yeah. So I was in pre-production on a film, and we just kind of like totally, we were supposed to start filming in September, and over the summer we were just kind of like, okay, we need to reimagine this, and we'll focus on this next year. So I focused on other things that I could do, but yeah, I'm a little unclear exactly. Like, so what is your exact question though?
My question is, in terms of follow-up emails to the companies that have responded back to us, and we sent all our stuff.
Okay. Well, first of all, I think getting 8-9 replies is pretty impressive. As Theo said, just getting one is, it means you likely have something that's appealing and, like commercially viable. So that's great. I would say, I think it's appropriate to follow up soon. Right, Theo? Do you think now is a good time to follow up? I think so.
I think so. Yeah. I think that now there are a lot of producers, a lot of productions that are just a bit of a backlog because they've had to delay their slate of films. So now that they are catching up, so they might be pretty busy, but because also there are so many platforms out there, and because they've had to stop, there's also time now to read still as well. So following up is and trying to get content for maybe next year and things like that, or the year after, they will definitely be reading now. A lot of people have been reading during the strikes, but even now is a good time to reach out again, because it could just be out of these 8 or 9 who got back to you, it could just be that it's just a reminder, like, it's me again, and I'm just checking in, and you've 8 or 9 people who responded to you. So those 8 or 9 people is a good place to start. And I think that now, it's never too late to kind of get back in touch with them, especially now the strikes are coming to an end. So I 100% reach out now. Just give them a little nudge. Yeah.
All right. Thanks. That's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah. And good luck with it. Good luck. Any other questions, or is there a couple more things that I think Dana and I have to talk about once? If there are questions, that we got a couple more things to.
Just had one quick one, Dana and Theo. I'm an actor on some shows. The last one I did was Unsolved Mysteries on Netflix. I'm not, I get small parts here and there. What would you think it's advisable? You have to think outside of the box and be creative. I don't bring a full script with me. I'll talk to production people just in passing about what they like. Do you have any thoughts about talking to professionals on a film set about writing? Would you bring a script? Would you have one waiting in the wings? Would you bring maybe a log line? How would you approach that?
I think a log line is always a good thing too. I mean, that's why we're describing it as an elevator pitch, just because it's something which you can memorize. You can say it in conversation rather than handing something to them. I think a log line is always very undervalued, but a good log line can get you your film made sometimes if you get to the right steps, and people like the log line as because it might be they're looking for a certain genre, and you think, wow, that log line perfectly captures what the kind of films we make. So I think on a set, it might be, it's a pretty crazy place. So I'm not sure if maybe handing a script to someone while they're working is like is maybe lunch.
I kind of like it. I kind of like it.
I was on a film set in
like reading what you have.
Seattle. I was on a film set in Seattle, and literally right behind me was Steven Soderbergh, and I had a script, but I didn't bother him. I didn't want to. I didn't want to get thrown off the set that day.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It would be tempting with Steven Soderbergh, but I think that might be a little too far even for him just to hand him a script. But I think because they always, the problem is they always want to go through. They always want to go through agents or through their manager or through somebody associated, and so it's always like good. It would be that kind of response, but I mean, it could work, but I think the log line is definitely a good way of log line, maybe contact and to send them the treat. So,
Right.
Otherwise, at least getting the conversation going is a good start. But I think actually getting a physical copy is quite overwhelming. Getting let's say 100 when you're in the middle of work, or if you're currently working on something. But I don't know, maybe it could work. But I think that the log line is definitely a good place to start.
Yeah.
So you guys wanted to cover a couple more things before we get to Brett. We'll get to your question later, Brett. But let
yeah, I think just based on a couple of things, going back to optioning, just to kind of on the topic of optioning agreements, we did talk about option agreements. They do run out of time. I know Dana's got an experience with that, where you need to use that time wisely, because you can have an option agreement with somebody. If someone likes your script, you'll often find that it's an option agreement can be anything from 6 months to a year to up to 5 years, depending on who the writer is, who the people are optioning the script. They might, if it's a script that is coming from a first time writer, they might offer you a very little amount of money, but just because they like it, they want to say, look, let me take this for 6 months or a year, and let me try and help you get this made because I really believe in the script. So they might just say to you, here's $10 or $100, or if you're lucky to get in the thousands, that's fantastic. But they might offer you something very, very little, just to say the script isn't really going anywhere, and you've been trying to get this, made for 5 years. Let me take it for 6 months, and then I'm the only person who has control of that for 6 months, and then let me try and work with you to do that. And most writers would take that, because if nothing's happened after 5 years with it, you think, what's the harm in this person really being on my team, on my side, to try and get this made over the next 6 months or a year or more. So that's one thing, is just make sure that there's plenty of communication. What the person's doing with you to work, to try and get this film made. Use that time wisely, because when it runs out, you're back to square one. So make sure that's a very, very proactive 6 to 12 months. Dana, do you want to touch on your experience with that?
Yeah, sure. So my first option, I was really new to the industry, and I'm really excited, right? It's so exciting. But I think I was probably a little too excited and like aggressive, and not using my time so well, I think. And I had a mentor, Ken Atchity. He's a producer. He produced The Meg, and he's a manager too. And he kind of like talked about the waiting room, right? So when you're a writer and, you get an option, or if you're, like that gentleman was saying before, waiting for people to respond to you, like, what are you doing in the waiting room? You should be writing, right? You should be writing, networking, I don't know, even editing, making sure, what you have is great. So I think just like using your time wisely, and, that's what
that's a great point, Dana. The always be writing. That's a really good point, because if I'll very quickly say that the guy who if you guys know the show Hunters on Amazon and Invasion on Apple, the guy that created those shows, I actually cast him in my first movie 10 years ago as an actor, and I saw his name come up when I was watching Hunters on Amazon. That's the show that's produced by Jordan Peele and starring Al Pacino. And I was watching it, and I saw his name, the same name, David Weil, came up. And I thought, that can't be the same guy. But I knew he was writing at the time, but I didn't know what he'd done with it. He was only 23 when I cast him. And then I looked it up on IMDb, and sure enough, he was the creator of that show. So I reached out to him, I emailed him, And we got talking again, and I said, so what was your journey like? He said, well, I had a script on the Blacklist, which I'm sure a lot of you know. It's just a platform for unproduced scripts. They kind of label themselves as like the best unproduced scripts out there on the market. So a lot of producers can go there, can read scripts. You have to pay fees to get them read and critiqued and things like that. He had a script on there which a producer read. He really loved his writing, but he thought this script isn't right for what we want to do. We're looking for a TV show. Do you have anything else? So this is what Dana was saying. It's not just about, oh, we like or we don't like your script. It might be, what else have you got? And you always need to have something else that can back up your writing. So you can say, yeah, sure, I've got 2 other features. I've got another pilot. That's a great position to be in. They know that you're actively writing. You're not just sitting on one script and hoping, praying to God that this happens for you with the one script. So this producer reached out to David and said, do you have any other scripts? He said, yeah, I've got this pilot and a couple of other features. And he sent over the pilot to him. And 6 months later, they cast Al Pacino. Jordan Peele was producing it, and it was on Amazon. And he's now showrunner on that show, Invasion. He also did Citadel, which is a show which has been out for came out I think started this year. He's a showrunner and creator of all these shows. And before that, he was just a writer on the Blacklist trying to get his scripts read. So having a second option or a third option of a script to share with the producer, if the one that they like your writing, but it's not right for them, keep writing. Make sure you have a good body of work to showcase, because it can often be your second or third choice script that gets made or has some interest.
Okay, we're kind of going to have to wrap up, but I wanted Brett to get a chance to ask his question.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I spent a lot of time in LA, and I'm sure a lot of us, have to go there for whatnots. Where is the best place to do physical networking? And I'm going to say, aside from a film festival, which I know you're probably going to say that as your answer.
I don't know, Theo. What do you think?
Well, I often with it can be festivals, it can be film markets. It's very good for networking, because people are either buying, selling, pitching. It's everyone who wants films, TV shows. They're actually seeking them. So you're in a good place where everyone's thinking that they've already got that mindset. So that's a really good place to go as a film market. Even if you just walk around with your, with your idea and just like a one pager, like a treatment, just to share with people. But I find that most of the connections I've made have just been through things like, you can be at a screening of a film, or you can be, let's say you made a short film and you go to a festival, you go somewhere else where you screen it and you invite people to watch it. I've managed to get commission for scripts just based off the fact that people who I didn't even know, who came to the premiere of Wishman, then saying, okay, well, I would love to talk to you about this idea for a story or my life story. And I've met so many people that way, just through relying on your work, what you've done, so they know, okay, this person is a screenwriter, this person is a director, this person is a producer, and then they might know somebody. It might be through a second or third person that they know that I want to connect you with this person who's a producer. So it's really being open to all those things. I'm not really actively a good networker in terms of proactively going out there and trying to meet people. I've just met so many people on my journey, and you cross paths with so many people, the more you expose yourself to those situations like film markets and festivals and screenings and things like that. So be very proactive in that way. Even if you have, just like local film societies and things, it might be that someone you meet at a film society, you might be producing your first feature with. So just keep keep your eyes and ears open whenever you're at anything to do with a film that you don't necessarily need to be. It needs to be one of your films. It could be something you're invited to. You could meet someone there. But film markets are a good place because everyone is there for one reason, and it's the same reason you're there.
Okay, well, with so many questions, we didn't really get a chance to probably get to all the points you wanted to. But are you guys comfortable with sharing your email addresses, everyone? And then we sign off.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we just.
Yeah. And we can also, if there's anything we have left off, we can always maybe share that with you, Andy, just so if there is anything that anyone else wants, we can maybe there might be some bullet points in there or something, which if we didn't touch them, I think we covered most of it, but there are a few minor points that we could maybe share with people if they want to.
Okay, I mean, if you wanted to send me anything, I'd be glad. My email's at the bottom of my title there. If you wanted to
Great.
connect with me, send me any bullet points you want me to forward off, and or maybe you'll have a chance to come back and do this again.
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you so much.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
Okay, thank you. So I'll leave. Has everyone been able, if everyone, I guess you guys can send me your email addresses because I have to close this one out, and
Sure.
and then I can forward it to anybody who gets in touch with me. So thank you very
Great.
much.
Okay.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Theo. Bye.
Bye, Dana. Thanks a lot. Bye. Take care.